Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kindly like and subscribe to the channel if you like our videos or the kind of content I create. I create reaction content about American politics in America and woke stuff in America. So kindly like and subscribe. Today we are reacting to the video Leftist woman asks Ben Shapiro if he is transphobic. Let's see how it goes.
So you've come out against the rioters in Charlottesville and all their violence and bigotry.
Yep.
The leaders of the Charlottesville rally were empowered by the rhetoric and agenda of Donald Trump and a lot of his associates as they've come out in the Vice documentary and claimed. You've not only said controversial things, but you've had a couple of attacks against the trans community, transphobic attacks, even your call for the transfer of Palestinians, which I don't know if you've redacted that.
Yeah, I redacted that like 9 years ago.
I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure. I wanted to ask you. No, I'm just learning about Ben.
No, really, that's fine.
Here.
That's fine.
But even with that, do you feel that a lot of your speech could incite the same kind of violence?
I mean, you heard my
Donald
speech
Trump-
tonight. Do you feel that my speech could incite violence?
Well,
I mean that seriously. That's an honest question.
I know you're asking honestly. I feel that for me, as an individual, it isn't, but I could see how a lot of your points I really disagreed with. I literally have a list of
And that's
questions
fine. I mean,
have
that's
for
the good
you.
part, right? Where we disagree and we can have a
I
conversation.
just was wondering in terms of you, and what I mean by inciting violence is encouraging the same people who believe in like your transphobic beliefs, even that like homophobia is a sin based on your religious beliefs. Do you believe that because of what you say, you can encourage a lot of people to act on those beliefs?
So I have a very strong standard with regard to incitement, and I'm very consistent about this. If I'm not telling somebody to commit violence, I am not inciting them to violence. I've held the standard for Barack Obama when he was saying anti-police things, and then somebody went and shot up some police officers in Dallas. I said that's not Barack Obama's fault. When a Bernie Sanders supporter went and shot up a congressional baseball game, I said that's not Bernie Sanders' fault because Bernie Sanders wasn't calling for that. Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean, not as an excuse to go and do violence. I've never called.
I think this case, what he's saying reminds me of what Trump was accused of some time ago, whereby it says Trump incited people to enter the White House. People actually, like protesters after Trump lost the election or something, went into the White House, and Trump was being accused of such a thing because he tweeted something and then like people just went haywire on the White House. I think Trump was accused of inciting such then like I think something similar. I think Americans can correct me.
Called for violence, nor would I. As far as the idea that my words are some sort of attack, a violent attack, for example, on folks who are transgender, my
I'm
view,
not saying they're a
I know,
violent
but
attack.
I'm responding to the people who are not you who might say that. Okay,
Okay.
so the idea that I am transphobic, for example, this is a bizarre kind of attack in the sense that I don't know that I've ever exhibited phobia of trans people. I'm not afraid of trans people.
Well,
I'm-
transphobia is more along the
But-
lines of prejudice against the trans
So I think
community,
that
in terms of calling them a
I
tomato.
actually think that your first characterization was right. I think that transphobia is really disagreement with the basic principle that the trans community is trying to purvey, which is that people's sex is malleable, that people can move from male to female, and that it is my job, objectively, to now call them the name.
Yeah, I think this just came to me. I think I also disagree with that word transphobia. You know, phobia is the fear of something. Like phobia, like everything that is with phobia is like fear. So like no one is actually afraid of or scared of trans people. I think the issue everyone has is them imposing their ideology on people, like asking football clubs to wear jerseys that have their rainbow, their colors on it, like all those things are what people just don't like. But no one is scared of trans people. Like what harm can they do to a physical person? But no, they're trying to put their places where they don't deserve to be and trying to impose their things on people. I think that's where everyone draws the line, but no one is actually scared of trans people.
Name they wish to be called, and to teach my children that men can be women and women can be men. I fundamentally disagree with that point. Now, with that said, is everybody in the United States entitled to the same rights? Of course, but your right does not extend to forcing me to call you what you want me to call you. That's not the way this works.
Exactly. Like you guys have rights, like footballers being accused of like a whole footballer, Ibrahima. Idrissa Gana Gueye like lost his whole contract with PSG because he refused to wear a jersey that has their trans, those trans. Like French people are so trans, they accept trans, but they are so hypocritical. Like, look, man, they look. Let's not get into that, but like people end up being forced to wear trans colors because what? Because they are trans people have power. Like these things are things that we shouldn't be accepting. And why does all this only happens to black people? Because black people have very strong religious background and very strong stance when it comes to what they believe in. And I think Ben and most Republicans have the same notion that like, look, these trans people are going to kind of mess things up. So let's kind of have a stance against them. And yeah.
That violates my freedom of speech. So in interpersonal relationships, if I were out to dinner with a trans person, would I make a point of noting their proper biological sex? No, because that would be impolite. When I'm talking about the general principle of is a man a woman or is a woman a man, the answer is I will say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman and a he is a he and a she is a she. And if I'm in a public debate with somebody, I will say the same thing. As far
So I do want to clarify that when I meant, I wasn't trying to say disagreement. I was relating it to the same definition of homophobia, which is prejudice, or I tried to say discrimination.
Right. So I think that again, homophobia. There are some people who actively want to do violence to people who are gay. Right. I mean, those people are not me or anybody that I agree with. Obviously, I've never at any point in my entire career ever advocated violence. God forbid, against anybody in a civilized society. That's not something that I believe in, and I think it's evil. As far as
That's not true, though. Ben is currently asking for promoting violence against the people of Gaza right now, like with the whole Israel and Gaza conflict. Ben is actually asking for the complete annihilation of the Gaza people. So with that, I disagree. Maybe when he was making this statement, he didn't see that. But like now, that is what he's doing. So let's get that straight. Ben is currently asking for the annihilation of Gaza, the people of Gaza, because he feels like the Jews own the whole land. The Jews never owned that land. They were just given a settlement to, but that's just a case for another a story for another day.
as far as I think again, your original definition of transphobia actually is better applied here as well. I think it's disagreement with certain principles that the homosexual community wishes to espouse.
What I was saying was that's not what I was. I was instead
I know,
of saying
and I'm saying
saying
that I agree with your original definition and not your definition. So the definition that you made.
No, I'm not saying it's mine. It's one that I like Googled that I found.
Right.
So,
and I think that definition is wrong, and I think that the one that you Freudian slipped was right. Is what I'm
so
saying.
I'm saying based on like the institution of, I don't want to say the institution of Google because that's an extremely general thing to say, but in terms of as soon as you search transphobia, homophobia, this is what comes up.
Right, and I think,
do you feel like even though you're disagreeing with transphobia, with the trans community, which I believe we all have our own disagreements, I'm asking, do you feel that the fact that with your disagreement, you're inherently through the institutions that have provided these definitions, discriminating against trans community.
And I'm saying
encouraging other people to follow.
So
I know
here's
it's a long question, but I had to encapsulate a lot of things.
So here's what I'm saying. I disagree with either their definition is wrong or it's overly broad in its application.
Okay.
So if the idea is that if I say a man is a man and a woman is a woman is inherently transphobic, that's not discrimination, that's disagreement. If they say that's discrimination, they're overly applying their own label.
I think when you say like they're mentally ill, like that gives off.
I have said, and I will continue to maintain, that gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, whichever DSM you choose to use, is a mental illness.
Yeah, that is true, though, because I think a country in South America, either Colombia or Venezuela, I don't know, I think it's Venezuela, they declared trans what the ideology of being trans as a mental illness, bro. Like you need to see how deep, like some countries have declared it a mental illness, and my country, Ghana, is still debating on whether to accept it, whether to make it illegal or make it a death penalty or make it a prison sentence. Right? So some countries have actually declared it a mental illness, by the way.
That is, and again, God forbid that it should be said with any animus, because this is not said with animus. When people are suffering, these are clearly folks who are suffering. When people are suffering, you shouldn't be saying stuff with animus. I'm not saying that as a gotcha to people who are transgender. The point that I'm making is that when a society begins treating folks who have mental illness as though they are representing an objective reality, they are doing no service to the people who actually suffer from a mental illness. My grandfather suffered from schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. He was institutionalized. If the doctors had said to him, Nate, you're fine. We believe that the radio is actually talking to you. That is not a service to him. That would have been terrible for him. Right? They put him in an institution. They gave him lithium, and it helped. Now, I'm not saying there's even a great solution for folks who have gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, because the solutions that I've seen, including transgender surgery, are not intensely effective from all the studies that I've seen. It's a tragic, tragic situation. But the solution is not to redefine as a society what sex means along anti-biological lines. As far as the homophobia point, it's my own religious belief about the sinful nature of particular people's behavior should have no impact on how you act in a free country or how you think. It's a free country. Do what the hell you want. Right? There's religious ben, which is what I think is sinful, which is Jews who violate Sabbath, right? Jews who eat shellfish. Right? There's a lot of things that we think are sinful in Judaism. Right? And then there's the stuff where do what you want because it's a free country. I think people do a lot of sinful stuff all the time, and I'm not calling them on it. Right? I think the people who are living together outside of marriage are sinning according to my traditional religious beliefs. It's a free country. Do what you want. So when people say homophobia, I think what they are doing is saying you disagree with me. I've never called for violence, and not only that, I'm in favor of legalization of same-sex marriage in the sense I want the government completely out of marriage, right? I don't want the government in the marriage business at all. So it's very... So I think that what bothers me is when folks assume that a disagreement means that they can ascribe animus, anger, hatred, wish for violence to me.
Which is what a lot of the Charlottesville rioters were doing.
Well, the Charlottesville rioters were garbage people. I mean, I did 2 full episodes on how garbage the Charlottesville rioters were.
I mean, this has been really great, actually, to have this dialogue. But I think
I was the #1 target of the alt-right in 2016, according to the Anti-Defamation League.
I looked you up. I know. But what I I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sassy, but what I really wanted to understand was, because you have such a large platform, I mean, even through Twitter, through social media, through your website, through your, just all your work, like, do you not claim, I don't know of any particular cases where someone has said, Ben Shapiro
Just go straight to the point and ask him, man. Don't try and be nice.
told me to literally go murder a trans person, or someone who...
And if they did, they would be lying.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to, ask you about...
Right, and if they did, they would be lying, and I would think that, and again, anybody who commits acts of violence or evil in my name is a violent, evil person.
Okay.
And I hold that standard for everyone. But I really appreciate you coming.
Look, guys, to me, like, if you want to be, if people do something, like, hold them accountable for it. Like, don't, causation doesn't, what, I forgot how it's, but like, what you do has, like, you think about things you do, basically. Like, we are humans, man. We have a common sense. So everything we do, we think about it before we do. So if you go and act this in a certain way and say you were influenced or incited by a particular person, you should be held accountable, not that person, because you have a brain in your head and you should make your decision based on that. That being said, I think the trans community should kind of chill out and stop imposing their beliefs and whatever on people just because they think like I said, free world, as Ben said, like, do what you want, but don't try and force it on people. That is where everyone draws their line. So with this said, kindly like and subscribe, and then catch you in the next one. Peace.